G'day, you're back with MiracleMAX. You'd have to agree that it's pretty hard to get out of bed in the mornings when it's sub-zero temperatures, and it's been no exception lately here. And that's the problem with my first vehicle today. It's struggling to get up and running first thing in the mornings. So what's the problem? Let's have a look and see if we can fix it. So I've just been in contact via phone to this particular customer just to get some more details about the problem that he's experiencing. Now, he said it's a lot worse when it's cold first thing in the morning, or perhaps when he starts to come back home from where he's working and it's hard starting. Okay. Now, I did ask him the other day to prime his low pressure side pump to try and see if there was any air in the system. He gave it a couple of pumps and it went solid. So I don't think it's on that side of things. He did say it seemed to crank a little bit slow. Now, these are notorious for needing exactly or more than 12 volts to the ECU before the injectors will actually fire. Another thing that he mentioned too, that there was not really excessive smoke out of the exhaust when it did start. It was white smoke, if anything, and it didn't seem any different to normal starting. It was a little bit rough on the idle side of things, but it wasn't missing on individual cylinders for any particular length of time. His battery was replaced about 1.5 to 2 years ago, but I'll check that anyway. That could be an issue, but he did say that it was cranking slow, so that is a bit of a direction for us to look at. Keep in mind this is a diesel, and they have glow plugs, don't they? How do we know if the glow plugs are working? We'll check those first together with the battery. One easy way to check and see if the glow plugs or the circuit itself is live is just turn on the ignition. And you should see a yellow wiggly line there across to the left, and it went on there for a very short period of time, didn't it? Before I start the vehicle this morning, I've decided to do a scan on it, just do a full systems check, and at the moment, as you can see, it's up to 32 of 34 possible ECUs that this vehicle has. You can probably see already that the engine one has one fault code. This isn't an unusual one. I see it regularly on this particular vehicle. It's just a communication timeout thing, and as you can see, it says not equipped, so I'm not concerned about that. What I want to do now is just go back to my engine side of things and have a look at a little bit of live data before I even start the thing. Things I'm interested in is the glow plug system to make sure that that is working, and also voltages, of course, the battery voltage, to make sure that that's in good nick. Now, we've got 12.1 volts there. Man, that is low. That is super low, isn't it? Just keep in mind that when I crank this thing, that's going to drop down heaps. So I might select some of these things. Definitely battery voltage. I'm not worried about the glow plug light. We saw that on the dash, but the relay I'm definitely interested in. And I'll grab that fella there too. Selected. And I also want to graph those fellas. It's in neutral. I've double checked. So let's give it a crank and see what happens. Actually started fairly easily there, didn't it? Glow plug relay is on, so the glow plugs are working. That current sensor didn't appear to change at all, did it? I don't think these have a current sensor on the battery. No, I don't think they do. Battery voltage seemed okay. 13.7, that seems a bit low, doesn't it? I'll keep in mind, guys, that these are PCM operated. As you can see, it's creeping up there. Let's put on some lights. Let's just check on some loads on the circuit. Let's put a fan on, for instance. And it should come back up to 14 in theory. It seems to be struggling a bit, doesn't it? We'll have to do some testing on the battery once we get inside into the workshop. This has been left outside on purpose, of course, but that does seem fairly low, the 13.7. So let's head into the workshop and have a look at what we can find. So let's have a look at our battery tester here and just see if we can find out the condition of our battery at this point in time. Let's start with the basics, shall we? Let's enter in on that. English, in vehicle, before charge, regular flooded, cold cranking amps. Our cold cranking amps on this particular battery is 810. Oops, wrong way, dopey. There we go, and let's hit the go button and see what she does. Now keep in mind this isn't all that old, it's only probably 1.5 years old. and it's listed as a good battery, and it's saying state of charge is actually 98%, state of health 79, which is good. So it appears that our battery is in good condition. So why are we struggling with this starting issue first thing in the mornings? What I might do also is just check the charging of it. We'll just go next and we'll start the engine and see what that does. Says the cranking is normal. It only went down to 10 volts, which is good. Shouldn't go down any lower than about 9.6 volts. So let's go into the charging side of things. We hit the enter button once again. Charging test, yes we do. Loaded test, so in other words I'll turn on my headlights now. And it's saying that it's reading normal, the ripple's normal, charging is normal, 14.14, loaded and unloaded. So why are we having this hard starting issue? The starter appears to be okay, the alternator appears to be okay, the battery appears to be okay. What's next? So, after much searching, I've finally found the glow plugs. They're tucked away in, believe it or not, in here. I might even zoom in there if I may. There we go. There's one of them at least. So, yeah, good fun. Looking forward to it. What I'll do is just check and make sure that that rail has voltage going to it first before I pull off the rail and check the resistance of individual glow plugs. So I've connected my multimeter up to one of the glow plugs, or the bus bar really, and other side onto my negative terminal there. We have no voltage there at the moment. So when I flick the key on, it should come on for a certain period of time and then it should go out. Let's have a look. Okay, 12 volts, that's to be expected, and then it disappeared. So we know that the relay is okay, the wiring to the bus bar is okay, the ECU is triggering it correctly, all those things is working correctly. So we need to pull that bus bar off and see if the resistances across individual glow plugs are okay. If not, yep, they've got to come out and be replaced. They are original, it's done 280,000 Ks, so that's to be expected. At the moment I'm finding it a little bit difficult to find the correct resistance in ohms for individual glow plugs for this particular model. Generally speaking, they're around about the 1 ohm mark. So does that mean I've got to pull off the bus bar at this point in time and then check them individually, or is there a check I can do up front that might give me a bit of a heads up? Have a think about it. These are connected in parallel, aren't they? And of course we know that with parallel it actually drops the resistance rather than increases it. So we have 4 resistors at, let's say, 1 ohm each, and so that should be divided. What do we have at the moment? We have, whoops, it's going up, it's going up, it's going up, and it settles at around about 11.5 ohms. Now, is that what it's meant to be? Let's have a quick look at a calculator on our phone and just see if that makes any sense. So to work out the calculation in parallel, we could do, let's just say 1 ohm, and we need to divide by 4. There's 4 cylinders, and that should give us roughly 0.25 of an ohm. And yet we're seeing 11 ohms here overall. Does that make sense? Nah, seems like there's high resistance there. Guys, we do need to pull off that bus bar to look further. So the Genuine Workshop manual suggests that you pull off the throttle body together with the EGR valve, and they talked about dropping coolant and all sorts of stuff. So that sounds like a bit of work to me. So this thing here is our glow plug. I've managed to access it past here. No problems on the first one. The second one was a little more difficult. I did have to undo the dipstick and push a few pipes out the road, but you can actually sneak in between that lot, and the other glow plug is down in between that lot. It's way down in there, but yeah, a little bit hard to get to. Third one is, I just can't quite see it, to be quite honest. It's tucked away in there. And the fourth one is, it's way back there somewhere. Look guys, they are hard to get to, and at this point I'm not actually physically pulling out the glow plugs. I don't know if I'll have to pull out that stuff later on or not, but at this point in time all I want to do is pull off the bus bar to check the resistances on individual glow plugs. So yeah, back to work, Max. Probably the one thing that I'd focus on, guys, is removing your battery. that is definitely in the road. Other ones, you know, it's just a matter of moving brackets, getting things out the road so that you can access them. This back one's a little bit hard to get onto, and I can understand. Did you drop something, Max? I think so. Probably that back one's a bit of a pain, but you can sneak in there if you remove this particular bracket out the road and use a bit of a wobbly joint and a 10mm socket on there. Should be able to get it out and find out what is going on. So I'm just about to check the resistance on these glow plugs. Sorry for getting the road. I've got you guys zoomed in super, and as you can see, I've got the multimeter on the left that is set up on resistance. I mentioned to you before there should be roughly around about the 1 ohm resistance, but this front fella, and it's reading in the mega ohm scale. It's not reading correct at all. So that's way out of scale for a start. So let's cruise over to the next one, see what that says. Okay, next one's even harder to get to. So like I said, I apologise if you're getting your road. Can't even see the stupid thing for now. Hello, where are you? Where are you, fella? Oh, in there somewhere. Nice. Alright, you can see it there perhaps. So we're reading 0.9 of an ohm, which is pretty much where it should be. Okay, so we've got one good one, one bad one. Let's move on to the next one. Alright, there's my third one. And there's my third one. Hello, it's a Lance. I've got absolutely nothing on my third one. And so it's obviously an open circuit. And my fourth one, alright, so we've got nothing there either. Okay, so we've got probably 1 out of 4 that are good. Whew. That's hard yakka, hey? Okay, so, well, we're certainly up for a set of glow plugs without a doubt. Maybe other issues, but yeah, glow plugs for sure. Tell you one thing for sure, these fellas are going to be difficult to get out. They're really long. I'll show you in a sec the new ones, but think about it. It's done 380,000 Ks, like soot and stuff all over the place, dirt, grot and grime. And of course, there's carbon on the inside, all over the element shield. So I need to use a bit of compressed air for starters. That's the starting point, just to blow off around where the glow plug is going. Oh my goodness. So after that mess, I'm just going to get some degreaser on it and then basically wash it down and use compressed air to blow it off. See if I can find it first. Then I'll give that a blow off and that should be heaps better. That's better. Give it a bit more of a clean up, and of course I've got the other ones to do as well. And after that I'll be using some freeze and release to try and lubricate it and free them up, hopefully make that easier to get them out. So here's the glow plugs that I've got for the vehicle. I don't know the brand to be quite honest, but I've been told that they're quite good. What is that? HKT. That's what they are. But look at the length of these suckers, hey? They're pretty much the length of a multimeter. They're huge. Now, my main issue, of course, is the fact that where this goes into the cylinder, of course, the heating element, this section here is all going to be backed up with carbon, and it's going to be a pain to get out, I believe. So that's why I've put on some freeze and release, you know, around the thread here, and hopefully that'll help. And, you know, I'm going to let that soak over lunch, and hopefully I can get them out easily. Yeah, right. Anyway, let's have a look at what the resistance on a new one is in comparison to what we had with our old one. Now, of course, the new one here, we have the one side of the element here, and the other side we can just put it anywhere, it should be okay. And we're reading, what's that, 1.6. So, you know, that's pretty cool, keeping in mind they're going to vary with temperature. 1.5, but it's much better than the mega ohm range that we had on some of them. And of course there was open circuit in others. So if you're going to test this with the buzz bar connected, and let's say that they were 1.4, and of course they're all in parallel. So if they're 1.3 divided by 4, should give you 0.325 or about 0.33 overall on the bus bar, and that would tell you that they're in good condition. But you saw what we had about 11 ohms, something like that. So clearly wrong. These new ones have got to go in. So I've hit this with freeze and release around about 4 times during my lunch break. Hopefully that will release them, make them a bit easier to come out. Hey, look, in this case, I'm happy to be called a liar. Check this out. Oh, dude, loving it. Love your work there, Max. So let's just back up on that focus. Let's have a look at this. Okay, I was really surprised. I thought all this shaft would be carbonised, but it's not. It's just the element itself that's actually carboned up quite a bit, but yeah, nowhere near as bad as I thought it'd be. So fingers crossed I can get them all out easily. So I'm going to chuck in the new one now. I'm also going to put on just a touch of anti-seize on the thread itself, just to make sure next time it's easy to pull out. Fingers crossed I won't have to with the amount of Ks on this thing. But yeah, just a touch of the old anti-seize should help. I was actually surprised they weren't that hard to do. They came out certainly quite easy compared to what I thought they would be. And in this particular case, the back one was probably the worst. Required, let's call it creative socket use. So, you know, big long extension bars and all that sort of gizmo, deep sockets, but even right at the end I had to you know, do it up by hand before I could get this deep socket on there because it hit the manifold and all sorts of stuff. But hey, it's doable, that's the important thing. So yeah, they're all in there, all ready to go. Got to put the bus bar on yet, of course. One thing I have been struggling with a little bit is trying to get the top nuts on to the glow plugs which hold on the bus bar. Now, because the glow plugs are so deep into the engine, it's easy to drop these nuts. I do not want to do that. So what I have been doing is just grabbing my little light here, which it's all very pretty, but it also has a magnet on the end of it. So you just pop him on there, and then you can stick that on without fear of dropping it, and you just gently screw it on. Once you've got 1 or 2 threads started, then you can put your socket on without fear of dropping it. Good idea, quick tip. Remember I said because the glow plugs are in parallel, if we take off the bus bar wire, that's this fella, where is he? He's down there somewhere, just trust me. Okay, he's down there. And you just connect straight to the bus bar, and like you can see here, I'm onto the bus bar with my multimeter lead, and of course my earth is over, there he is there. If we put it on ohms, it should give us, remember, a divided amount, not a times amount. So I think I had about, what was it, 1.4, and there was 4 of them, and that came up to around about, what was it, 0.33, something along those lines. And have a look at what we have now. About 0.5, it has come down to 0.4, depends on temperature, there we go. But also, you know, you've got to allow for a tiny bit of variation, but that's a huge difference in comparison to what we saw before. 0.5, 0.4 of an ohm is consistent with these glow plugs being measured in parallel. I'll give you a look at the old ones so you can compare them to the new ones that we've looked at. So these are the glow plugs that I've pulled out in order, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now remember I said that there was only sort of like one that seemed to be working correctly. Just have a look at the tips on them, hey? Look how carboned up they are. But number 2, let's check out number 2. What do you notice about that? Well, it's actually quite clean, isn't it? Let's do some testing on them just to see what the resistance check is. Put him over there and we'll have a look. So the first one, if I remember rightly, it was in the mega ohm range, and we'll check that one. 4.7 mega ohms, that thing's had it. Now notice this one has a clean tip, and that is measuring 1.2, 1.1, which is correct. That's what it should be measuring. So that one's actually okay. Number 3, well, that's an open circuit for sure. We've got no measurement whatsoever. Number 4, another open circuit. Out of 4 glow plugs, only 1 was working correctly. Poor thing, struggling cold mornings. Oh, I understand how it feels. Okay, just about to hit the key. Keep an eye out for that glow plug symbol on the left hand gauge. And of course I've checked to make sure it's out of gear. As before, I've got the glow plug relay set up there on the G-scan. At the moment the ignition's off and it's in the off position. Let's have a look and see what it does. It should be pulled down to ground. And there we go, it goes down to ground. Wait for it. And you can hear the relay click off and it goes out. It's now 7 o'clock in the morning, a couple of days later. The customer has left his car on purpose. He's gone away on a long weekend, so it's an ideal time to see if this beast is going to start or not. Who knows? We'll give it a whirl and see what happens. Firstly, we'll let our glow plug cycle and then give it a start. Glow plugs are on, just gone out. Okay, here we go. 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippis, that's not bad. Started before the oil light went out, great. So that's not too bad compared to what it was doing before, considering it's cold. Last night it got down to not quite 0, it's 3 degrees now. That started quite good. Really, ideally it should be less than 1 Mississippi, but hey, a couple of Mississippis isn't too bad in my opinion. I'll have a chat with the customer, but despite the age of the car, I think he'll be happy with the results. So there's another job that's done and dusted. This Mitsubishi Triton can happily start in the mornings despite the cold weather that we've been having lately. You know, it's amazing that this thing even started at all, considering that these glow plugs had been in the engine for almost 400,000 kilometres, and it was only really starting on one glow plug, wasn't it? So it's done pretty well. Guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Give it a like and feel free to comment down below. Don't forget about that notification bell either. Dong, give it a good hit so you don't miss out on any future videos. So until next time guys, this is MiracleMAX. I'm signing off. I'll catch you later. Bye.